Thank you for joining us for today's Here's to Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Don Lintzman. My guest on the podcast today is Dustin Durbin. Dustin is the Volunteer Services and Community Relations Coordinator here at CCMH. And Dustin, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And the reason for our conversation is that next week is Volunteer Appreciation Week. And that started in 1974. We have a lot of volunteers here at CCMH.
We do. To get started with numbers, we have 141 auxiliary members. And out of the 141 that are very active, I just did a kind of a short, quick count and came up with 87 active volunteers. So we've got 44 in our gift shop area, and then the other half is our transportation program.
And we've got a couple at the thrift shop.
Oh, yeah, so that really adds up some.
Yeah, so there's a couple more. But before we jump into talking more about volunteer opportunities here at CCMH, let's talk a little bit about the Volunteer Appreciation Breakfast that is coming up on April 19th.
Yes, it's April 19th at 9 a.m. at Kronk's. It's always been well attended. It's one of our largest events, and it's our time to celebrate volunteers and volunteerism. And so I try to do everything to make it special. I want it to be focused on them and their achievements. And it's small to them, but to me it's huge, is their time investment. So I always love to have a moment where we get to celebrate their time achievements and milestones. So we've got kind of the intermediate level where they're working on building those hours, but we've got the bronze level, we've got the silver level, the gold level, the diamond level, and they haven't hit it yet, but I think next year we're going to have lifetime members.
Wow.
And that's a huge one. That's anybody that's put well over 1,000 hours. And so we're getting really close.
And I think one of the benefits of volunteering at CCMH is you get a chance to kind of pick and choose, because we have several different opportunities, but you can be as involved and spend as much time with us as you'd like, or as little.
Oh yes, I mean I've got a couple that work the gift shop and they do the transportation program. There's even ones that come from the one I do have that comes from the thrift shop that does the bus, and so it's you can do both, or you can do one of those. I mean, I have out of the 44 girls that are at the gift shop, there's the majority of them they just want to be at the gift shop. They love the customers. They love being able to say hello, and when they do that, it's fun to go in there. I don't know if they're selling things. I think they're having more fun having a good conversation with the patients. So it's a lot of fun for them. So there's a reward.
So let's start by talking about the gift shop. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who might be listening to our podcast today who doesn't understand how that works, why don't we talk a little bit about how the gift shop operates and what the volunteers actually do there?
Yeah, so the gift shop, so it's open Monday through Friday. It's open from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. And I have 2 3.5-hour shifts is what they are, and there's a morning shift and an afternoon shift. Some girls they can get another girlfriend with them to come in and sit and chat with them, or they're in there by themselves. There's a couple of them that they'll just start hooping and holler at anybody that walks through the door, and they'll try to get them into the gift shop to buy things. And if they don't, they've made a friend and a good conversation. What's really expected out of the gift shop is just help make sales, of course, and just kind of running the register. One thing I know, retirees, sometimes they've never ran a register, and so that can be a little put people off a little bit, but I always want to make a rest assured that I'm here to help. Like, you're not just going to be thrown to the wolves. That if you are left alone, there's a very detailed instruction of how to run that register, and I know that's always been kind of a scary thing, but it's one of those things, you can't mess it up. I mean, if you want to try, you can, but you can't.
And there are a couple of other things that go along with running the register. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we also have some volunteers involved in the ordering of the merchandise and obviously displaying that at the same time.
Oh, yes. So we have Connie Volkman is one of the best jewelry buyers we have. She helps a lot with that. And a few of the girls take it upon themselves, which I encourage. I encourage it to be displayed differently, because it doesn't sell if it sits in the same spot forever. So they move things around, and I love it. I might be down there sometimes and just put it out on the floor when it comes in, because unfortunately it comes straight to my office, and then it makes it down to the floor. So, and then I've got a few girls who's ever working that day, if they are willing to help price, we do that, and they'll just go ahead and display it. So I kind of leave it's the auxiliaries gift shop to just play and have fun.
And some people, then the next question is, so you raise money, the auxiliary raises money through the gift shop. What happens with the net positive cash flow from that?
So with the net positive cash flow, we have this is a separate committee, which is also ran by volunteers, and that is our auxiliary scholarship committee for high school scholarships. And so a lot of those proceeds, this year we did $8,000 that is going towards scholarships for 8 students. So each student is getting $1,000 each going into the 2024-2025 academic season. And then whatever we have left over, if the hospital has a much needed item that wasn't budgeted for or just wasn't thought of at the time during our time to come up with our capital budgets, we can kind of help put that together. I think there's been an item, I know that we've talked about phone charging stations like we have in the ER. It would be nice to see a couple more of those like in our patient waiting areas. So that's something that the auxiliary is excited to get behind. So that's
my guest on the podcast today is Dustin Durbin. Dustin is the Community Relations and Volunteer Services Coordinator here at CCMH. We're talking about a Volunteer Appreciation Week, which is coming up soon, and the Volunteer Appreciation Brunch, which is coming up next week. In addition to the gift shop, there's also our transportation service, our free patient transportation service, and that is run almost entirely by volunteers as well. So let's talk about that for just a second.
That it is. So that's a lot. That's a very rewarding program also. That one, the volunteers, it's always ran by 2 people. We always have a driver and a host. The host is pretty much the navigator. They're given a cell phone that's given directions on where to go. It's really easy to use. I'm going to steal Progressives. It's easy, so easy a caveman could do it. And so sometimes you got to get logged in, but the instructions are there, and then you just go and you let the Siri map lady just kind of boss you around through town if you're not sure where you're going in some places. And it can be an adventure because we service the entire Crawford County and Dunlap, and so it's really exciting. It's rewarding because you're helping people get to their appointments that normally don't have a way, or family members they don't want to inconvenience to get here. So it's whether you're volunteering or want to know more about that, it's a great asset program to our hospital. And a day will look like, it's anywhere between 8 to 10 rides. There's just like the gift shop, we have a morning shift and an afternoon shift. Those are 4 hours each. So there's 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon. And there's times you're all over the county in one day, and it's just rewarding. There's always a roar of laughter when the volunteers come in with the patients. And there are times I'm like, I don't know what happened on that bus. But they have fun. They come in with conversations, and it's just a good time. And I think that one, I feel like it's really rewarding, not only for the patient but for the volunteer. And something really cool about that is if you do ride the bus, I've had 3 of those riders convert into being host and drivers. So that's a positive outcome of our transportation program.
And we've talked about the host aspect of this, which is really just doing that, being a host or a hostess on the bus, because we have men and women who do that job, but we also have drivers, and we also have men and women who drive. And so our vehicles are vans. So let's describe for a little bit how that works.
Oh, the vans. And that was actually when we went from those big shuttle buses. I mean, the girls weren't too thrilled about trying to drive that, but when I said we were having a minivan, the girls love it. It's kind of funny now that I have just as many gal drivers as I do male drivers, so it's kind of funny to have a little bit of some bidding wars of who gets to drive on what days. So it's fun to have that. And so now I think it's more fun. Not that it wasn't fun before, but I think there's just a more more fun, a little bit more laughter, because it's like she's the lady and she gets to drive the man around. So sometimes I hear that joke a little bit throughout the hallways with the patients. But it's really, that's also very rewarding, knowing where you're going. And the cool thing about it is they're very helpful to one another. So something about that can be a little complicated about our buses is, we might have a wheelchair patient, so running the lift. And now that we have both men and women that drive the bus, it's always been the driver's honor to kind of lower the lift. Well, sometimes now that the males have become hosts too, now they try to run back there to see who's going to let the lift down. And then and we do train you how to use the lift. We do train you how to put a wheelchair in, how to strap it down so it doesn't move for the patient's safety. Everything, it's you learn as you go. And your first time that you come out here, if you decide to volunteer for transportation, I'll always go with you the first time and ask all the questions you want. There's never an embarrassing question. We've had some embarrassing ones, and even I still make embarrassing mistakes that I cop up to, and you have a good laugh when we do make those. But it's a lot of fun, and it's also very rewarding.
And there's a couple of perks that you get along with that, right?
Oh yes, and I've actually added a third perk. So you always get a jacket for the wintertime, and you get your polo. But this a couple of years ago, I decided stocking caps for the winter. So I got those fleece-lined stocking caps. When winter was bad this year, that real cold spell, everybody loved having their stocking caps on. I was like, that's the first time I think I've seen them all wear their stocking caps.
And there's always a free lunch to be had in the meantime.
Yes, a free lunch. And something that I offer, and that also happens with the gift shop as well. They get a free lunch also. But I've also, because the prices, unfortunately, with things going up in life, another kickback that I give back to all the volunteers that volunteer, and even the inactive auxiliary members but that are still active, they get to have 40% off in the gift shop. And that's just a reward for coming in and just kind of making you feel special. So if you've got birthdays, grandkids to purchase for, it's just kind of a nice little added perk for your day.
My guest on the Here's to Your Health podcast today is Dustin Durbin. Dustin is the Community Relations and Volunteer Services Coordinator here at CCMH. We're talking about volunteer appreciation. Our CCMH Volunteer Appreciation Brunch comes up next Friday, April 19th rather, and the Volunteer Appreciation Week is coming up right after that. So why don't we move on then to the thrift shop and talk a little bit about what goes on there and the opportunities for volunteers to come join us. I think one thing to make sure that people understand is that there are very few guidelines that we really follow in terms of volunteers. One of them is age, because we have to make certain that people are of the right age, and I don't mean older, I mean younger,
yes.
Right? But then we also want to make sure that everybody is healthy, so they all get a health check, they also all get a health screening. We all do a TB test for everybody. Part of our goal here is not just to have good volunteers, but have good, healthy volunteers, and we want to make sure that we take care of that. So when we talk about the thrift shop, let's just discuss for a minute what the opportunities are there.
The thrift shop is such an amazing place. Deanne Reeds does such a great job with that facility, and it's amazing. And she to get started, since we're talking about different age ranges, volunteers, a lot of like the students in the government class need to have community service hours. Well, what better place than the thrift shop? And it's such a great way to come down and to get started. We'll start from the back of house and work our way to the front. So in the back, you've got people unloading things and dropping it off. They hit the doorbell, and as soon as they hear that inside, this is the best place to have volunteers, where you lift the garage door open, those volunteers start bringing in all that good stuff that's sitting out there. And to some people it might be junk, but you know what? That could be another man's treasure. And so it's just neat to see what comes in, and then from there they bring it in, and then you've got to sort it. So once it's brought in, you have to sort men's and women's clothing. You've got glasses and housewares. There's sporting goods. Right now we've got golf season, which there's a good set of golf clubs down there. Anyone listening, you need some golf sets.
I bought one, but there's still one left.
So we've got that. There's outdoor pots for flowers. That's getting full, and it's just kind of each department just gets individually sorted. Anything that's big items like couches, chairs, hutches, dining room tables, those come through the front door, just kind of makes it easier. And for that government class, especially those young guys and gals, they can help bring that stuff right through the front.
And one thing I want to point out about the thrift shop is, again, like with all of our programs, if you have a particular interest in doing one kind of thing, so if you want to be a host, or you want to be a driver, or you want to be somebody who works in the gift shop, those are all different functions that we have available. But the thrift shop is also in the same vein, has, if you want to work on clothing, you can work on clothing. If you want to work on testing electronics, which we have a lot of that, you can test electronics. If you want to sort through books or CDs or movies or sporting goods or housewares or home decor, I mean, we have so many opportunities, and you can specialize and you can get really good at that one thing that you want to do. And so there's a lot to be said for being involved. Transportation's been around for 9 years. That started in 2015, so next year will be our 10th year for our transportation service. And the thrift shop started 8 years ago. That started in 2016. So next March, we will celebrate 9 years in business. And of course, the auxiliary and the gift shop have been around for a long time.
Yeah, that goes back to that was started, I believe, with the new hospital, or what would have been the new hospital on 20th Street.
Right.
I mean, that was back in the 1952, roughly?
Yes, actually it was a little later than that, in the 1960s, but still.
Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, you're exactly right. So we've had a lot of volunteer opportunities. We try to make this worthwhile for everybody who comes and joins us. Really quickly, before we recap the Volunteer Appreciation Brunch, if somebody is listening today and decides that they want to become a volunteer for Crawford County Memorial Hospital in whatever capacity we have available today, and we're always looking for new opportunities for people to come volunteer, how do they go about being able to contact somebody so they can learn more about that and potentially sign up to become a volunteer?
Oh, call me directly. My phone number is 712-265-2520. And again, I'm Dustin Durbin, the Volunteer Services and Community Outreach Coordinator, so I'm always here for you. So
you send an email.
Oh, an email, yes. It's ddurbin@ccmhia.com.
Or you can go online
and fill out the application right there, and I believe it's under the About Us tab.
Yeah, and you just hit submit, and that'll come right to Dustin's desk, and he will contact you, and we will get that taken care of.
Yes, and even if you're kind of not knowing, or you're just kind of a little nervous about knowing anything, I always let people come out, just check it out. Go for a ride on the bus. I mean, nothing's ever set in stone, but it's always come out, sit in one of these places, just kind of get the feel of it, and if it's you, it's you. If not, we've got plenty of different things to do.
Yeah, we do. My guest on the podcast today is Dustin Durbin. Dustin is the Community Relations and Volunteer Services Coordinator here at CCMH. We're talking about volunteer appreciation. And doing that, let's recap really quickly for people our Volunteer Appreciation Brunch, Friday, April 19th.
It's at 9 a.m. and that's going to be down at Kronk's. It's going to be a beautiful breakfast spread, so I encourage anyone listening, if I encourage you to come see this. There's going to be plenty of food, so come on down and check us out. Again, that's at Kronk's, 9 a.m. on April 19th.
And before we end today, Dustin, I think one thing that you and I have talked about more than once is the real value that people can get out of this. I mean, we do talk within our own circles about what's everybody's favorite radio station. It's WII-FM. What's in it for me? So I understand the concept. You get a lunch, maybe you get a jacket or a hat, or when you go to the thrift shop, you maybe get a $5 coupon. When you in the gift shop, you get 40% off. I mean, so there's all those kinds of things. But above and beyond that, in your opinion, what's in it for somebody who really would like to come and volunteer?
I think what's really in it for these folks is it's the camaraderie and the new relationships they build. Some of these folks, I can use any of them as an example, but the best example is our bus patients and our host and drivers, and they get used to getting to know them, because most of the time it can be a PT patient that we're picking up every other day, and then they build that relationship with them that they'll meet up for coffee, and they'll talk them into either volunteering, or they will start kind of creating groups. They'll get into card games, and they're just building relationships. And I think the best thing of what's in it for me is you just built an amazing relationship now with. You have a new friend that you didn't know you were going to have when you first started. So,
yeah, one of the best ways for us to feel better about ourselves is to go help somebody else who really needs it. And I think that our volunteers really fulfill that role, and I think that is what makes them keep coming back, because they have an opportunity to help someone else.
I couldn't agree with you more.
My guest on the podcast today has been Dustin Durbin. Dustin is our Community Relations and Volunteer Services Coordinator here at CCMH. Thank you for listening to today's Here's to Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Don Lintzman. Have a great day.